Innovation Unplugged from the Alabama Community College System's Innovation Center takes you inside Alabama's workforce development. Join us for enlightening conversations with community leaders and industry experts showcasing experiences, addressing key issues, and celebrating successes in the workforce initiatives across the state. Welcome back to Innovation Unplugged, a production of the ACCS Innovation Center. I'm Houston Blackwood, the Workforce Director. Today we have some special guests. I have Brandi Merrill is our Director of Curriculum Design, and Miss April Metrock from Wallace State Community College in Hanceville. She's the Adult Education and IET Instructor. Tell us who you are, where you came from, and how you got into being the Adult Ed and IET Instructor at Wallace State College.
All right. So, again, my name is April Metrock, and so I ended up at Wallace. My degree is in business management, and right out of college, I did marketing and sales for about 10 years, franchise operations, all of that, and decided to have children. And once I decided to have children, I started working part-time. And from that, when they got to be 15, I was like, what am I going to do now? Because they're about to be able to drive. So I took a boot camp at Wallace. I took a culinary boot camp because I've always hated cooking. So I thought, you know what? Maybe I hate it because I don't know how to do it. So they had an adult ed boot camp, and I was like, okay, I'm going to do it. Turns out I love the program and I love the chef, but I really just hate to cook. Like, I hate everything about cooking.
Is it the prep? Or is it the purchasing of the things? Or is it the cleanup?
The cleanup. It is the cleanup and the texture. I don't like touching.
I don't like touching.
things.
I don't like
raw
touching
chicken?
raw meat.
So you don't like raw oysters at all?
Oh, I do like raw oysters.
You just don't want to touch them because
You
you
don't
can
wanna
touch the
cook 'em.
shell.
Yeah, and I don't like that. I don't know.
Yeah.
I always have to have gloves and like go through a whole roll of paper.
I do
towels,
too.
you know?
I
What,
wear
you wear-
gloves when I handle meat too. Yeah,
Yes.
that's a new development in my life. I don't know how much I did of that when I was young, but I mean nowadays I just don't want to touch it.
Do you wear gloves when you eat oysters?
Nope.
That's
Okay.
a different.
All right, okay.
It's on a
That's
shell.
a different
You don't
thing.
have to touch it.
Yeah.
It's on a shell.
Really weird if
That's
you
a
did,
whole
so.
different.
Yeah.
Like
Okay.
to me, like shellfish. Like, do you eat sushi?
Yeah.
You do? Okay.
I do.
Okay.
And so I was taking my post-test from the boot camp with adult ed. And one of the adult ed instructors was like, well, what are you going to do now? And I'm like, I don't know. I don't know what I'm going to do with my life. And
I don't
she
know
was
what I
like,
want to do when I grow up.
yes,
but
exactly.
This sounds great.
Yeah. And so she was like, we're hiring and you qualify. You should apply. And I was like, really? People always told me I should be a teacher.
They
I'm
saw
just 'cause
something
I'm
in you.
creative. And I was a
Yeah.
corporate trainer back when I did sales and marketing, that sort of thing. And so it was like, okay, sure.
Yeah.
So I started in adult ed and I loved it. And I did GED for a long time. And then they asked me to start teaching ACE at a local rehab facility called Royal Pines. And I was like, okay, all right, I'll give it a shot.
What year was that?
I want to say that was in 2022. I've only been there about 2 years.
Okay.
And so the next year I went to the conference, the LAPSI conference, and I saw that there was a Skills for Success speaker. And
Who was that? Do we know?
Julie or Kayla?
I don't remember.
Okay.
I don't remember the speaker, but I was like, I'm going to go sit in on that.
Did they wow you?
They did. And
Well, that might have been all four of us because that was early on. It was at the Birmingham Sheridan. Yeah.
And it turned out that Suzanne was in that as well. And so I sat by her and I just kept taking notes. And I said, Suzanne, I need this program. And she was like, what? I was like, my students need this program. And we got back from conference and I was like, I need that program. Can I have that program? And I just kept going, And so she was like, okay, see what you can do with it. And so ever since then, we started with just skid steer. We started our first skid steer. Wallace has a big plot of land, and they allowed us to use it. And they literally had to clear a road to get out there to even start the program. And the first class, we probably had a clearing about the size of this room.
Wow.
I mean, it was tiny the first time, and now we have a huge space. We're sending tons of students through it. We're doing skid steer, excavator, and bulldozer.
As a bundle kind of thing, like they go one after the other?
No, we do one a month.
Okay. Gotcha.
Yeah, we do one a month because they're in a 16-week program.
Okay.
And so they're usually in class for about 3 weeks, and I get them through ACE, and then we do a MAPS for them. And then from that, we get them used to using a computer and do some digital literacy skills and that sort of thing. And then we start to add in and incorporate skills for success. And they get really excited.
Oh, I bet.
Yeah, they love
There's
it.
something about, jumping on a big, heavy piece of equipment like that and knowing what you're doing. And, it's really cool. Have you gotten on a skid steer yet?
I am certified in all
Yeah.
3 pieces of equipment.
I saw it happen. I saw it happen. It was
Yes.
good.
It's a good feeling, isn't it? It's like,
Yeah.
I could re-landscape my yard,
Yes.
or yours too, for that matter.
What was the scariest machine? Was it the skid steer or the dozer? Or the X
was
rocks a lot.
It was the excavator.
Yeah.
And for me, it was because, I never played video games or anything like that. So there was so much going on with that.
Yeah.
I don't even know that it was so much scary as it was more intimidating on a different
true, yeah.
level because
Yeah.
there's just
better word.
so much to handle. I did get the on the skid steer one time. I had the bucket too high and I got a little rock action going, and I was like, oh nope, back down.
You got a case of the big eyes.
Yes.
Big eyes. I said eyes.
But I have to admit, I did practice too. I did skid steer first, and my father-in-law has a skid steer, so I went to his house the weekend before.
Oh, you did a little
Cheater.
preloading.
Just gaming the system.
Yes.
So that's really cool. And I was there, I think, when you were doing one of those. What's been the biggest win among your students at Royal Pines? What's been the biggest win, collectively or maybe an individual? And you wouldn't be the first person to cry on the show, so if you need to go there, we will.
There's always that one. Somewhere
Yeah.
in those 2 years, there's almost always like that one that stood out, like you're just rooting for him in life, rooting for him by the day,
And you don't have to name names, but just
I have so many.
Yeah.
And I have the joy of having so many.
yeah.
They have graduation once every 16 weeks. And they have 3 groups going through at a time. And so they're now in a competition to see who can get the most certificates and who can accomplish the most.
we
And
like a little
so,
competition.
Yeah. And a lot of them, I wish there was just one win, but it's just seeing their transformation of, so often they'll say, I never thought I could do this. No one's ever believed in me. I've always been told I was stupid, that sort of thing. And so to hear that
Well,
and then to hear them say, you've given me a future, that is just, it's a wonderful feeling to
I bet.
see that in them and see, I recently had a student who did all 3 pieces of equipment, and then he was in our first CDL IET as well, because one of the challenges that we run into with working in people in the rehab facility is license.
Yeah.
Their license is
Oh, yeah.
suspended and getting past, how do we get past the license being suspended and that sort of thing. But he got his CDL as well, and he has recently been employed as a CDL driver.
No
and
way.
he said,
Oh,
I
that's
never
awesome.
thought in my life I would be able to do this.
Can you tell us which company that was? Was it local?
I have it in my email, but I do not
okay.
remember.
What was the was it like a local delivery or like a over the road, or do you know?
No, he's doing, they build something, and he's delivering the building supplies for whatever. He's driving the truck local
Okay.
to deliver the building
That's
supplies.
amazing.
What type of student? I didn't mean to interrupt you,
No,
but
it's
what
good.
type of student is a Royal Pines student participant? What is Royal Pines, and how do they get classified as a Royal Pines participant, and all of those things? Tell us who
So-
they are.
Students end up there in various ways. Some of them voluntarily seek help, and then some are placed there as part of their probation. So it really just kind of varies. I've had people that quit school in 6th grade, and I've had people with their bachelor's degree in engineering. The thing about addiction is it doesn't necessarily pick a certain
Sure.
person.
Yeah.
And so I've had a variety of all students. Yeah.
And they're coming on. We're working on something for August. I believe, for them to come on and have a whole show with some students.
Yes, August or July or August. So I have one student who's coming in who he was really funny because he didn't want to do my class.
Yeah.
Because when I first started, they made it mandatory.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, this cannot be mandatory. Like, I want the workers. Like, either let them choose to be in here or opt out.
Right.
But, you know, I want the people that want to be here, that want to learn. And so Eric did not join the class. But every time I would go into the computer room to start class, he would be there. And he would just kind of stare at me. He wouldn't
Linger.
speak. He would
Yeah.
just kind of look at me. And then I would be like, I'm sorry, you have to leave. You know, we're about to start class. And after about a month and a half of just staring at me, he said, so I don't want to drive heavy equipment, but I do want to be a CNA. Is there anything that you can do to help me? And I was like, I'm not going to turn him away. I've got to figure out, you know, what can I do to help him? And so I started talking to him, and we went through his resume and realized that he had a lot of food experience. And so we put him through the food and beverage class, and he got his serve safe. And then several of the nursing homes in the area were hiring for dietary technicians.
Brilliant.
And so we were like, go that route, because they have an OJT CNA, but it's going to be a month and a half out, and he needed to get to work.
Yeah.
I was like, go here. And so he applied. He got the job. He loves it. He is about to do the mental health technician to add on to that while he waits for the CNA program
Love it.
to come up. Yeah.
Love it. Gosh, that's awesome.
That's a really good story. Is he? Would he be willing to come on the show? With us?
He's coming with us.
He's the one coming. Okay, beautiful.
Awesome.
I think I saw that. Now that you say it, what type of, when you do the food and beverage with those students, where do you do that class? Like, what kind of facility?
So we can do it at two places. They have a commercial kitchen at Royal Pines on site.
Awesome.
So we've done it there. But then Wallace has.
The culinary. Yeah, okay, good.
So we can do it there too, depending on, sometimes it's just Royal Pines students. So in that case, we try to do it at their facility just for ease. But then if there are other community members signed up, we usually do it at Wallace.
I'm just mesmerized, though, by kind of that story of you saying, you know, here is what this student presented with, you know, and the opportunity wasn't necessarily exactly what he wanted. But you, and I'm assuming others around, probably at your campus, at your facility, probably do the same thing, in that you're really kind of seeking, well, if this doesn't work, I'll help make a path to this until this. So how cool is that you get to help those students make that path every day?
Yeah, it is a very, very amazing feeling. And just to watch them grow. And, you know, a lot of times I'll tell them, they're like, well, I don't want to do food and beverage. You don't know until you do it. Like, try, you know? I mean, I love that it gives them skills, but I also love that it gives them the opportunity to explore options that they may have never thought of.
Yeah, absolutely. Creating their own opportunity, being open, you know, and then that part of what, I don't know, I can think back to, and I may have even said this on this podcast before, there's so many things that happened in my life that I might not have been looking forward to, have chosen at the time, and then wondered, like, you know, how in the world that would ever fit in something. And the next thing you know, like years later, you're like, oh my gosh, that's exactly why that happened. So he may not know right now. Of course, he is getting the kind of that immediate gratification of getting to work in the cafeteria of the nursing home. So that is kind of an immediate reward. But he and others may never know, you know, for years what they're building right now, you know, later on becomes a payoff, you know, in terms of job satisfaction or opportunity or growth or just personal experience, whatever it is. So that is awfully cool. That's an awfully cool role, you know, to step into to help people like that. That's awesome.
So how do you have to sell this program now? Do you have to recruit people now?
Yes and no, because I have a huge list. I have had to bring in an additional instructor to help because the class has gotten so large. But every once in a while, if there's a student who's reluctant to take the class, I probe them.
Yeah.
Because usually it comes down to they're not comfortable with math or reading. And it's just because they're missing those gaps. So they've never sought additional training because they were not, quote unquote, a good student. And so that's why I think that Skills for Success has been such a great addition to adult education and our IET program. And my director, Patty Wilkins, has been so kind to just let me kind of play with it a little bit to see.
Love that.
But with adult ed, like for CDL, with adult ed, we're able to go in and teach the math component. And we do study guides with them in person prior to going to CDL class so that we can give them,
Sure.
you know, the preparation and the confidence to go into class. And then also with doing it through adult ed, if they need financial assistance, you know, if they can't pay for that medical, then adult ed can assist them in paying for some of those fees. So we are literally knocking down every barrier for them to be able to do the class. And so for some of them, it's just so rewarding to get the training that they never thought they would be able to, and to be able to be a successful student, which they've never had that feeling before. So it is very transformative for a lot of them.
That's good. That's what we want. We weren't sure how it would be applied once we started building all these things, but I think this is one of the most captivating applications of what we do. For sure.
I have one last question. Yeah. So once they get through the course, do they ever say anything like, gosh, that wasn't as bad as I thought? Or is there not only is there a sense of completion that they actually completed it, but is it maybe easier than they thought? Wasn't as difficult as they thought? Do you ever get any feedback like that? Like, you know, if they were apprehensive in the beginning, you know, what's their thought after? So
I currently have one student who was like, Miss April, I will do one. And that's it. That's all I'm doing. And I was like, okay, Sean, that's fine. You do one. I said, do skid steer. It's just the easiest. Do that. And then after he did skid steer, he was like, all right, I'll do that bulldoze.
Okay.
And now this one student who is unsure exactly what he wants to do has done bulldozer, skid steer. He signed up to do excavator. He did food and beverage. And hopefully before he graduates, we'll be able to do mental health tech.
That's
but
great.
He's like, now I don't know. Do I want to work in a hotel or do I want to operate heavy equipment?
Gosh, but he's got every opportunity in the world.
Yes,
all
and
because
that's
he
what
took a chance and just took one.
Yes.
And the next thing you know, you're hooked.
Yes.
Love it.
But I think it helps that I can say, you can do it. I did it. Look
Absolutely.
I did it. If I can do it,
Yeah.
you can do it. And I think that helps too.
Love that.
Good job sticking with them. That's what they need. So many places. April Metrock, thanks for being here with us. I look forward to the next episode when you bring your students on from Royal Pines. It's going to be a powerful episode for sure. Thanks for joining on Innovation Unplugged. Remember to like, subscribe, and share on all the podcast platforms.